So here's a little Road to Total War Warhammer 3 video that I intend to be a little shorter and straight to the point. As if I'm capable of such a thing. It's specifically regarding only 2 rosters in Total War Warhammer 2 and what I'd like to see happen to them in Total War Warhammer 3. And this is a bit of a personal one that I've not seen too many people voice opinion on, which is the Dwarfs and the Warriors of Chaos, to me, have very boring battle rosters. Well, very is a bit of a strong word, but they very distinctly suffer the most relative to pretty much any other army in the game. Even the Bretonnians, who have a pretty limited roster, can still have a variety of different tactics, whereas the Dwarfs near always have a very heavily armored wall of defensive infantry blocking for missile infantry and artillery. The Warriors of Chaos near always rush with very aggressive, heavily armored infantry and very aggressive, heavily armored monsters. Though I did choose for this particular battle the infantry and monsters that aren't heavily armored, because, you know, I'm a forward thinker, I am. And for the Dwarfs, it's definitely a more severe issue than for Chaos. I think that people who have played against the Dwarfs can voice their displeasure with how the Dwarfs tend to play the same a lot. The interesting use of a wind spell there. And both of them could be fixed by a potential cross-game DLC in Warhammer 3. Chaos has several tabletop options that would make them a bit more interesting. Chaos War Shrines in the backlines to buff your infantry. Or, let's say, oh Jesus. Let's say Striders of Slaanesh, a cavalry unit that's very light, very fast, does poison and armor piercing, but is not, you know, very tough in comparison to Chaos Knights. Hell, by just changing the campaign a bit, they could probably emphasize Chaos Knights and Marauder Horsemen a little bit more. Though, cavalry lacking uses in campaign is a bit of a problem for pretty well everyone's campaign in this game. And it makes me sad as a cavalry fan. So for Chaos, there's some pretty solid options already in the good old 8th edition tabletop army list that would make them more interesting to play. It's a pretty simple option. Just release, you know, a Lord pack, a cross-game Lord pack, Warriors of Chaos versus, I don't know, Kislev or somebody. Or Ogre Kingdoms, that could be fun. Throw in the Chaos War Shrine, Stars of Slaanesh, what have you. Make them more interesting. The Dwarfs, it's a bit more of a difficult question, as the Dwarfs have pretty well already got their complete tabletop roster outside of weird things like Iron Drakes with dual pistols. And that's weird. But they could pull stuff from, let's say, the Monstrous Arcanum had Shard Dragons, which are kind of like non-flying serpent dragons that dig, and the Dwarfs have somehow tamed them. It wouldn't fit the Dwarf roster, but a big monster would change the Dwarf game plan quite a bit. For something that would fit the Dwarf roster a little bit better, of course, they would probably go with the Thunder Barge or the Rune Golems. I believe there's actually 2 variants of the Rune Golems, although I don't know the exact difference between them. But either which way, giving the Dwarfs more offensive options, or at the very least, more than just typical heavy armored infantry with maybe some Slayers or Rangers in the back, would make them more interesting to play and more interesting to play against. Of course, at the end of the day, for both Dwarfs and Warriors of Chaos, if you just want to play the game as easily as possible, then spamming heavily armored infantry is just, you know, pretty brain dead simple. And I'm not meaning that as an insult. Some days I want to do that. But I mean, there's several armies in the game right now that have loads of options, but there's a pretty easy pick to just go with. You know, you can play the Empire with pretty interesting mixed combined arms strategies, or you can just pick a hell load of Hellstorm rocket batteries and then guard them with great swords. More options would just be better. And I suppose I ought to speed up this battle, because this is not going anywhere as quickly. I'd like to get the battle finished for the video, thank you gentlemen. I should have known with these 2 factions it'd take forever. Alright, well, I guess I can just sign out as the battle wraps up. Alright, thank you. Oh, well, there it is. Thank you for watching